Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This was supposed to be Grand Arena Match 2, Week 3, Season 24. Obviously, this season was cancelled, but before the hotfix was released in game, I raced through my playthrough to try and capture some footage. I did not have my equipment at the time, though, so I was not able to give a play-by-play live, but I'm going to rewatch it right now and narrate through my thought process. I didn't click on a recap for the first round, but it went the way I was expecting it, which was my opponent barely participating. But he did clear one territory. I didn't clear any because he had 5 GLs to my 1 GL and set 4 GLs on defense. My opponent, I guess yesterday when I recorded this, Hamalia Koval, he has 3 Galactic Legends. This is what the Hotbot was saying about his roster. So let's see here. He is in the much better guild, but his lifetime banners are low. At 691, that's winning more often than losing, but it's probably at closer to like a 60% win rate, where it's not... This is a person who plays the game mode, but is not as serious or as obsessive as I am. Zetas are kind of low for 3 Galactic Legends, but he has 2 Omicrons. I think it was Qui-Gon and Zam. I don't remember offhand. His relics are in that range of what I've been facing in Kyber 2, but he does have more depth on his roster than I've been seeing typically. Usually it's around that 120 to 130 range in this Gear 11 Plus. 6-stop mods, though, are no good. Like, I've got 150 less 6-stop mods, but I'm beating him by a lot in every speed metric. I don't know if I've said this in a while, but one of the things that I talk about here is a bad 5-dot mod is a bad 6-dot mod. So it's like if you don't have a 5-dot mod worth slicing up to 6 dots, just don't do it. Relics, the bulk of his stuff is in tier 7, tier 5, and the tier 1 to 3. That's a decent distribution. But you can see the speed on his JML is real low. My personal list here in the Hotbot, this is a Discord bot from Hot Utils. You can use it on my Discord channel. Most guilds have it, but if you don't know what it is. I added in my personal list Jedi Knight Anakin and Rex. They're just characters I want to know up front so I don't have to click through them in-game. Doesn't have a Maul. His Moff Gideon is way slow and undeveloped. His Echo is super slow. He has a 4-star Executor. His Negotiator is better than mine. I forget what his GK was at, though. So when we take a look here at what we both set down on offense and defense, my defense is basically standard for what I've been doing. I don't think I made any changes. And I didn't do any gearing during the off days between weeks, between rounds. Pretty soft top territory, but it trips up a lot of people because the quality of those characters are better than some other defenses that could be set down. And players tend to underestimate them and might not bring a strong enough team up against them, not really getting how the synergies are still a threat. Bottom territory. After revisiting the BAM, Fennec, kits, and synergies, because I was familiarizing myself a little bit more with Sign of Django, Quill and IG-11 need to be on that team. So I've shifted them over there and took them away from Dash where they were. They might make my Dash team better, but it's going to make the BAM team a lot better. Or it might make the Dash team worse. It's going to make the BAM team better. And with fleets, that stuff's probably going to have to change with the Interceptor. Maybe not, because you still need the TIE Fighter to counter the Executor, but hopefully we get some more ships which will clarify how to counter and set defenses. But the Interceptor is going to counter that Negotiator. So we're looking at Padme, Night Sisters, Grievous, Shaak T up top. Pretty manageable. Down below we got CLS, Rey, Nute, and Phasma. Phasma being one of those teams I've been talking about is not worth setting down on defense. So this Ray team here, gonna bring in JML. You know, there's something I want to talk about here. Let me pause this footage real quick. So there's one website I used when prepping for this counter, and what I went to is, let me get rid of that. So this is Grand Arena Science, and Grand Arena Science is a friend of the channel. I guess it's kin or kind. I guess I've never said it out loud, so I don't know the pronunciation. Hopefully he'll see this and correct me on it. But this has some really great tools on it. And one of the tools I really like here is the counters. Because what it does is it strips out a lot of that redundant information that SWGOH has. Where if you look at the counters on SWGOH, you'll get like 10 variations of the same team with one character difference, but the counter is basically the same, or the counters will be variations on the same thing with one character difference. But what you get on Grand Arena Science is you type in what you're looking for. So we type in Ray. What was it? Jedi training Rays there too. And then like Resistance Hero Finn. So it shoots out information based on the team that you're facing and then gives you recommendations. And instead of getting 10 counters that are basically the same thing that SWGOH gives you, it narrows it down and just tells you a much smaller subset of teams that you can be using to counter whatever you're facing. And that level of tailoring and customization is really good. There's a bunch of other tools here. And he gave me a shout out on one of his videos, and I really appreciated it. So I wanted to make sure that I made you guys all aware of that. His website is a website I use usually in my Grand Arena preps, not during the records, but I use almost every Grand Arena. It's a very good tool. So back to the footage. I used I think I used the Shaak T version that was just shown on that website. And then I think I'm pondering and we just jump into it. This is fairly straightforward. What I really was trying to extract is how weak of a team do I want to go into this with and still win. Because I want to save other characters. Like you can bring in Gas and JKR, but that's way more than you need. So I started out with Efflux. I put Master's Training over on Luke. We're gonna stun everyone. Get some ability at blocks. I try to pull turn meter from Ray, but don't get it. And I'm just spreading inherited teachings around. And I called in Shaak T to dispel the protection up. Now we trigger the damage immunity, so I'm shift over to someone else. But now I can't damage anyone, so I think I go for the Foresight, just try and clear the Foresight. We can still get rid of buffs, so that's kind of what I'm thinking as I go through this. Hit lands. Now we can go back to Ray. Well, let's get this big. Let's switch over to this view. You know what? Let's stay here because it's looking really grainy. So we got the ultimate off on JML. Now I'm just focusing down on Rey and taking her out. But now she's gone and it's going to fall apart from here. Just calling in Luke for the damage and for buff clearing, and just kind of going back and forth between JML and Jedi Knight Luke. It's damage immunity on 3 out of 3 characters now. So now I can just finish characters off. Okay. Now just basics, waiting until the damage immunity goes away. Now we can wipe her out. Okay, I think I may have adjusted the media player where we can watch this large without the same level of graininess, at least I'm hoping. Maybe we'll just live with it for this video. So we're going to do CLS mirror. Probably should find another way to approach CLS, but this is my crutch. I respect CLS too much to use something weaker, and I don't want to use anything stronger. So we're focusing down on really Chewbacca, but some of because of the counters and everything, Han was getting weak enough where I felt like we could go after him. But with where the turn meters are, I still have time to not go directly after Han. The AoE clears both Chewie and Han. We throw up the blind. And just trying to control the board, paying attention to where the turn meter's at to decide who I go after. You know, because of this guy's speed mods, I had the confidence that I know I'm going to win most of these. We take a look at Nute here. Nute I'm going to approach with the Imperial Troopres. But the big thing to do here, because Nest and Jango are there, is I take out Stark. Because Stark, with his unique, is going to be gaining turn meter or removing turn meter. I forget if it's gain or remove. It comes out the same. But Stark is either gaining or removing turn meter every turn. So it makes it impossible for the damage immunity that Jango has to go away, because it's a 2-turn damage immunity. And Nest is kind of the same deal. So I do a mass assist over at Dooku, because Dooku's super annoying. So I like to get him out of the way with the stealth, plus with the healing he has from his Zeta. I take him out. Stormtrooper I brought in because he takes the inevitable failure from Piet so well. Armor Shred over on Nest just to make my life with Nest a little easier. Nute I take my time on. I don't really care about. I hit Nest because the protection up wasn't that high. I felt like Dark Trooper could do some damage there. And now I'm mainly hitting other characters, spreading around the damage, because what I want to do is let Jango take his turns. And I don't want to give a bunch of turn meter to the Trooper squad by taking out Nest. Like or Nute. I shouldn't have targeted Nute with Dark Trooper, but I thought he had enough health to survive a hit from a Gear 11 one. You can just see how slowly Django is gaining turn meter. And that's just the first turn. We got a whole another turn to wait. Paid the taxes from Nute because I wanted to speed these characters up. I just decided to take her out. I could have taken more time there. Piet onto Nest because it's a Relic 8 Piet. I knew he was going to blow that Gear 12 Nest up. And just delay tactics. Finally, Django takes his turn. AoE and just burn through him. Troopers, just a strong counter to Nute. Even like those B1 versions. The way Dark Trooper works just burns through those stacks on B1. Don't even need the relics on Piet. Is one of the things I miss was having just a full Gear 11 Trooper squad to bring at teams. But I didn't have the Executor, so I had to get a Relic 8 Piet. So we're looking at this Phasma, or do I look up top first? Yeah, I basically forgot what was up top and wanted to take another look and see if I wanted to handle any of these teams. And I think I just cleared the bottom. We're probably about like 40 minutes to the hotfix at this point. Maybe 50 minutes. So Phasma here, this is one of the... I just put a video together where I talked about weak defensive teams. This is one of those filler Galactic Legend prerequisite bridge squads that aren't very strong. And I bring in a very weak Jedi Knight Revan team with a bunch of Gear 11 characters. Just Jolie and JKR are the only ones that really matter. I could have brought in other Jedi along with them. And I didn't want to use stronger teams up against it because who knows what's on the back wall, but I just wanted just enough, and this is a team that's just enough. I might even use it more often because Phasma is a team where I don't have a consistent counter because I'm always changing what I use based on what's on the field. So officers, adds a bunch of turn meter with the swap and the turn meter removal. Officer's kind of the engine to these squads, so I go after officer first. And now you can see this dispel that Fox has is super annoying, so I like to go after Fox second to stop that dispel at this point. And once Fox is controlled, there's no real threats left. Phasma's the last remaining main annoyance because she puts up the advantage and then there's some turn meter stuff with her kit. So there's so much less damage with all these Gear 11 characters that this is taking a while. But it's not in question. And now there's a Kylo, but there's plenty of ways for us to control Kylo at this point. So healed up Ezra. The Barris, that's a health equalization, not a heal. That's why it works, even though she had the healing immunity on her. And we're just staying focused on Kylo. And from here, we auto and just get it done. This is a pretty smooth run up until fleets. So we're going to open up this back wall. I'm trying to remember what we even saw. I think there was a Mon Mothma team. Geos, maybe. Maybe Old Republic? I don't think it was Old Republic. No, it was Bad Batch. So I think we're going to see Bad Batch, Geos, and Mon Mothma back there. And Mon Mothma is fun because we get to play with Iden Verso. I think what I need to start doing is start using different versions of Iden Verso, because I have all Gear 11 Troopers minimum. So I could use some alternate variations, try out Magma Trooper. But I like what Range does. I like what Shore Trooper does. Death Trooper, I think, is pretty mandatory. Range Trooper, I think, is pretty close to mandatory, because Range Trooper really helps accelerate the increasing damage. But I know some people use versions without Range Trooper. So with this particular version of Mon Mothma, I'm kind of indecisive to start for who I want to go after. Wedge is the damage dealer, so I try to stun him, but it doesn't happen. And it's pretty clear that Chirrut needs to go because the heal over times that he's adding, and we can't go after Chirrut until Baze is gone, so we just focused on Baze. But this is all a matter of stacking up enough damage so that we can get through Baze. And at this point, we've had a number of assists, so now we can use Deathmark to permanently get rid of Baze, which means Mon Mothma is going to waste a turn at some point trying to revive Baze. Every time Shore Trooper heals and spreads that crit immunity, that has a chance for assists with Range Trooper, because it's a buff, and anytime a buff goes up, Range is assisting. So I'm going back to Wedge because Wedge and Biggs, their synergy is annoying, so I was just trying to eliminate it. But now we can stun and work on getting rid of Chirrut. And I think pretty soon we're going to have Deathmark back, which is just going to allow us to Deathmark someone quickly, stay focused, and take them out. Yeah, here we go. So there's that assist I'm talking about from Range Trooper. The heal over times are now eliminated. We've got a lot of stacking damage. So it's 2% every time a character assists out of turn. And at this point in the match, we've had a lot of assisting out of turn. Alright. Iden Verso has been a great Omicron. Just, I love it. I don't regret it at all. Mon Mothma's probably the ideal team to take Iden Verso, to take against with Iden Verso. or to take item verso against. But it's not necessary. There's other teams. Like that Phasma team would have gone down to item verso. I've done that before. Now I think I head back to the top territory. Because Geos and that weak bad batch team, they're not things to worry about. We got plenty of things up top here to be more concerned with. And lately, this is how I've been handling Padme teams, especially these weaker Padme teams. So I'm debating now between TIE Fighter Pilot and Mara Jade. And I've tested both. And this was, I had a conversation with one of the commenters on, one of the regular commenters on the videos, Yoda. And he makes an argument for TIE Fighter Pilot. And I've tried it, but I'm reading through here. And this is what I like, why I like Mara Jade, is all those added stats, particularly the potency and the offense that Mara Jade is giving, which is why I ultimately go after Mara Jade. The issue with her is whenever she uses her basic, Palp is going to assist, and that's going to add the protection up from Padme. So I'm just very careful to make sure that anytime I'm using that Mara Jade basic to be targeting GK. Last time I did this, I think in 24 2.3, I timed out with just a tiny bit of health left on GK. So I'm really trying to be focused on making sure we don't time out this time around. And part of the reason we timed out last time was I was doing early saber throws up against Padme in particular. I do the saber throw there because I want the turn meter gain from Palp's lead Zeta on expired buffs. So I throw, that's why I did the saber throw on Kenobi. So I go for the stagger. I want those mass debuffs for the turn meter gain and go for the dispel so now we can be targeting other people again. I don't know. Oh, I think I was trying to hit the stagger or something, which is why I hit Padme, because I wanted to prevent that turn, which I don't, maybe she didn't have stagger or something. Fracture her so she can't cleanse everyone. And I'm just spreading these shocks. And anyone who doesn't have ability block, making sure they have it. Get that free turn because there's 2 shocks on the field. And then basics over on GK. Checking for an ability block. See if we can stun Padme, but she doesn't have it. Back into Merciless Massacre and just making sure ability block is around. Force Crush. And then I look at the turn meter. I chuck this again because I'm just getting turn meter. I don't want them to go dispel the taunt, but it stays up. I want to cycle back to the AoE quickly, so I go for the turn meter. Swap with Royal Guard because he has the most turn meter. Fracture, now we can be focused back on Padme again. Eliminate Barriss. I hit Cat there because she had the ability block. If we hit anyone who doesn't have ability block, they get speed up. So I didn't want that to occur. That's why we hit Cat. Now, just spreading attacks around. Chuck the saber again because I want the turn meter gain from the expired buffs. And I'm just conceding that GK is going to be the last one standing. We're just trying to get rid of everyone else first. dispelling the crit, but we don't. It was what I was thinking there, but it doesn't happen. I probably need to look at her kit and see what triggers it being there. When her turn finally happened, all those dots do a ton of damage. Dots take Padme. Now we can start getting through GK fast. We're getting a little low on time, but I'm still feeling okay about it because we had like 30 seconds or less the last time we attempted this. So we're actually in a really good place. Fracture. We take out Cat, and then I'm just being careful. I don't want the AI to misplace it, so I'm just misplay it. So I'm just playing through this. Because the AI misplayed it when I hit auto last time. Just being careful. The saber throw I do not want to rely on until that point where there was a lot. So 8 seconds left. It's a little scary, but it's a strong, confident counter. Now what do I look at here? Just deciding between my options. I don't really have a plan, so thinking through what teams I have left, how I want to approach it. I think I end up with gas here. Because the Shaak T team is really the most threatening team left that I don't have standard counters remaining for. So I just ultimately I decide to overpower that Shaak T team with that gas team. I was thinking about the Maul team, wondering how that would do. But I end up... Where did I use Maul? I think it did Maul against Geos is what I ended up doing. So gas is just way more than what Shaak T can handle. So this is not anything. There's nothing really to explain here. We just stay focused on fives. I want fives is the annoying portion here. And once fives is gone, it kind of falls apart. I should have put the turret over on Rex, but I was only like half paying attention when I played through this one. Throw down the armor shred, go for the daze, and then just call in. Now fives is down. We can focus on Shaak T. Now focus down on Rex. And they're out of weapons. Now with Grievous, I think this was a Night Sister counter. They're at a level where the Bad Batch is questionable, and with the speed gain that BB-8 is going to be throwing down, I don't have any confidence that my Bad Batch can handle it. Talia, I threw into... There's no real bonus to Spirit. Spirit is just what I normally do, but Talia is actually very helpful with the Dispel. So I decided I'm just going to try her out a little bit more. get rid of all the buffs. Because of how quickly everybody died and triggered the sacrifices, I used the heal there or the revive there instead of the basic to stack more health because Daka does not have enough health stacked at this point. So I want people revived. But I'm paying attention to how much damage is happening to Daka every time she's getting hit. So I'm still not confident at this point, which is why I revive everyone. I think we're going to hit a Metalloid Monstrosity in a moment. You can see how much damage is going to happen to Daka. Maybe not. Or maybe it'll happen right here. Yeah, so you see that Metalloid Monstrosity didn't do that much damage to Daka, so now I'm feeling pretty good. So now I start using the basics and letting characters revive and fall away and keep bringing that stacking damage and health. Whenever she's the last one standing, I'll revive everyone. Plus, we're at a point where we need to make sure people are alive so that we can finish with high banners. I should have done the stagger there is what I should have done. But I don't use Talias often, so I didn't think about it in the moment. All right. Night Sisters, I believe this was a Traya. I think what I wanted to do was gas, and then I realized I had already used gas. God, I want to skip ahead. Maybe I'm going to skip ahead. Let's just speed this up. I don't feel like sitting through me deliberating in my head again. I was already there for that. I wanted to talk about Book of Boba Fett, but I think that's probably better that I delay saying things until more time has passed. It raises some questions. I think my evergreen issue is they seem to be very disinterested in telling the story of the show. Every episode has been about everything except this situation on Tatooine with all these crime families. So this is like, why is that the premise of the show if they're not going to tell that story? That's been true since the Tusken episodes, been true since these middle episodes. It's a frustration. But I do a quick little episode recap. Not recap, but my thoughts on the episodes on the Discord channel every week. I do it for all the Star Wars shows. I did it for the Bad Batch and stuff. For the Marvel shows, I haven't done it as much, even though I really like them. I'm more of a Marvel person. Like, I grew up on Marvel stuff. Star Wars I always loved, but Star Wars was more my brother's. Because my brother, he was like a member of the Star Wars toy fan clubs and stuff. Like, he had a Bomar Monk action figure that you had to like exclusively go away for. He had a bunch of those exclusive figures. He had a bunch of cool stuff. The bounty hunters were, it's an interesting dynamic when you have a brother and you're always dividing up fandoms and shows, like the way that we divided up the Ninja Turtles. Like I had Leonardo and Raphael, and he was Michelangelo and Donatello. And with like the way he describes it, I think it's a fair critique, is I always had first dibs. So like with the X-Men, I had Wolverine and Gambit and Cyclops to a lesser extent, were the characters and the toys that I was focused in on. And he would get Colossus and Iceman and Cyclops and Angel. And that into Marvel as a larger entity, where Spider-Man was one of the characters I latched onto, and he was Captain America and Iron Man and those characters. But with Star Wars, that was his to a different degree. Like I liked weird things in Star Wars. Like I always liked the Tusken Raiders. I always liked Greedo, and the rest of the bounty hunters. Those were his. Like he had the bounty hunter figures. I think I always liked Sith. Like I always liked Vader. And it's I guess that's something I find interesting. I can't believe how long this Traya battle's taking. Where with most of these fandoms and worlds, I don't know how often I like the villains. Where I'm definitely with Batman, but with Batman, everyone likes the villains. Batman has the coolest villains. But I think in a lot of... I think it's just... I think I'm attracted to good characters, and Vader was always a good character. And if you take like Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man's villains are lacking. And that might be more of an explanation there. Because I do love Magneto. Magneto's a great character, though. Yeah, so we finally get done with that Sith battle. I don't take a look at his fleet defense yet, probably because I'm running low on time, but he's got Executor and Negotiator over there. We got Bad Batch and Geos to wrap up with, for the squads at least. I'm going to take Maul here. I'm just quickly taking a look through to see what else I have, but I'm pretty clear in my head that Maul is how I want to approach this. We bring in Watt to make sure we go first, and we get an extra permakill on unrevivable with the weapons tech. And what's nice with Maul is the taunt is going to be constantly moving around to different characters, so the Geos aren't going to be able to focus down. So I know even if I can't take out the Geos quickly, they're not going to be able to lock in on someone and wipe them out. So like here, we got to take down the Brute, but it doesn't really matter because we're still shrinking the health pool. But it's a thing where I know that Alpha's going to dispel and heal. So if there was a way to get an ability block or something to prevent that heal, but there's not. We don't have a ton of options, but we're still taking turns, and we're able to get enough turns before Alpha goes that we don't have to deal with it. But it was pretty close there. We'll wipe them out. This is, my speeds are so much better, and I have the gear advantage that there's no real question. I brought in my bad batch because it's a situation where if I brought in a different team, it was probably, even if I could win, it would probably be a sloppy win. This is no question. You still got to respect weaker bad batch teams. That isn't a team he should have put on defense. When we jump in here, he's got a weaker executor. His negotiator, though, is where I'm going to have some problems. So if you don't know this counter, this is a counter you should practice and have available. Depending on the stars, depending on the RNG, you might have to come in and clean it up. But it's at least good enough where you will get through the executor if you are comfortable with it. So use the special on the Houndstooth because you don't want to give the Houndstooth turn meter by targeting anyone else, and you want that foresight up. Really, I probably shouldn't even done the AoE there, but I wanted to save the dispel in case we got marked or something on the hyena bomber. We lose the vulture droid, but that's fine. Spread the buzz droids around. First, this is important. You bring in the spy. This is an RNG moment of who gets marked. It's CAD, so we go after CAD. There's also a chance the CAD Bane has a high chance to dodge, so there's a point there where maybe the big hit from spy doesn't land, and then that makes this counter harder. That's another one of those RNG moments, but we got the hit, so CAD went down fast. Now we're bringing in these other ships, bringing in more buzz droids, or more vulture droids. Just hitting Razor Crest whenever we can. I use the basic because I know Houndstooth is going to cleanse the buzz droids when it takes its turn. Probably could have brought on. Now you need to bring in Ebon Hawk as your second reinforcement as soon as you can, because that chaff prevents the target locks from landing, which is going to slow down the special from the executor. That's important. Next turn, we have our ultimate going off. There's no buzz droids over there. We lost our vulture droids, but we get our ultimate, so we get it. We get a vulture droid back. Hit the Razor Crest, goes down. Boba Fett's the next threat, so I'm going there. Spreading the buzz droids. At this point, we've got the win. I need more vulture droids, so I'm bringing somebody in now. Take out Fett. I bring in Sunfac, but I should have brought in Soldier, because Soldier would have called a bunch of assists and stuff. But Having a tank in case things somehow go poorly is not bad. It just doesn't really matter at this point. The next portion here, though, I don't know what the relics were on his negotiator or his Anakin, but this goes very poorly for me. One of the poor decisions is I put Biggs on the front lines. I go back and forth between do I want Biggs or the Y-Wing. Because I like how well Biggs recovers health. He's at relics. The Y-Wing is based off of Akbar at gear 12. So there's things there where Biggs is still pretty good on the front lines, but this goes poorly for me, and I wonder if it would have gone differently if I had the Y-Wing. And I think I probably should have gone after Anakin to start, just to slowly pick things apart, but you see, like, it goes very poorly. I lose Biggs immediately. And that may have happened with a Y-Wing too, I don't know. But I quit because it doesn't matter at this point. We didn't even do enough damage on anyone. I wonder if maybe I should have used the Rebel fleet as my second fleet, and this would have gone much better. But the Rebel fleet is a full-powered fleet, and I'm missing the TIE fighter on the Empire. And without the TIE fighter, this Empire fleet is not as good. So I put the Reaper on the front lines because the Reaper has some turn meter manipulation capabilities that I like. It has protection up that it can give. It can dispel. It's a very good ship. But it doesn't really help me out either. So we get the taunt up. We land our target lock. Look, they're doing so much damage on me so quickly. I go for the dispel because the protection up we can't put onto the bomber, and that's where I want it. But I could have put it on Vader. So we lose Vader early. Another bad thing for me. Shuttle comes out. At least we can clean up the bomber. I can see how the Interceptor, even without the TIE fighter, might be able to clear some of this. But there's a number of ships that are just ignoring foresight. But we at least make a decent amount of progress through Anakin and Sergeant. Like, I could see here now bringing in Rebels and it having a better shot with Rebels. I don't have a lot of options left, so we bring in Finalizer. The Special Forces is better on the front line, or at least it was. That was the old thinking. That's all I throw in because the rest doesn't. They need a tank. So does the Radis. Yeah, they get their taunt up early. They take out a ship immediately. That's a Gear 11 pilot. And there's just not much I can do. But there's no days on the silencer, so I give it its bonus turn. Not bonus turn, but I give it its turn. Even though it has so much turn meter, it probably didn't need to do it. But it definitely didn't need to do it. But at least it had advantage from that hit, so that's what I go for. Things are progressing poorly for me. Another big hit. We at least get through the protection. This works well as a reinforcement because you get the target lock, and then you want to always be using the target lock or using the special on the target lock because then it doesn't go into cooldown. But it falls apart from there. And we got one fleet left. Not really one fleet, but one fleet's worth of ships left. And this is another fleet that needs a tank, needs another ship, because now with the Houndstooth dedicated to the Executor, there's not enough tanks that at least have the right synergies. And what I need is to be able to use enough specials with the ships having foresight. To get the ultimate off. And you see from this just the import that a tank has. It buys you the time to not have your other ships attacked. And there's actually an argument that maybe I should have brought in the Sergeant for just that reason, but I wanted to have multiple resistance ships out there. And I should have hit the Sergeant, but that Sergeant isn't as much of a threat from an offensive standpoint that I wanted to get rid of 5s. But with Plo coming out, that's probably the wrong call. Because, I don't know, it's not really why this goes. It doesn't affect winning or losing this, but. And we never get the ultimate off, so this is about to be over. Different order, Empire into Rebels, we would have been able to clear it, but now we're out of ships, so we don't get the full clear. But that is how that match went before getting that HOTFIX out. Least got a run, so we can show something for the weekend, or at least part of the weekend. Because I'm going to be uploading this sometime Saturday. But thanks for watching, everyone. Be safe out there and be excellent to each other. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.